beat this pandemic.
This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, the only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gullick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, sports call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
The following has been produced by Talk Football LLC. Former Florida Gators quarterback, NFL quarterback, and NFL head coach. Coach K. Stevenson has a resume second to none, and now he's sharing his insider information with you. Talk Football with Coach K starts right now on ESPN Pensacola.
Welcome in to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach K. Stevenson. On this Monday afternoon, hope you had a great weekend. Look, we've got so much to talk about today. Hope you're staying safe, of course, doing well in this time. Washing your hands, social distancing, I think you know the drill by now. But look, as we always start off this show, we will continue to do it this way. I want to thank our first responders and healthcare workers this time. Once again, it goes without saying what they do for us each and every day. We are so grateful for them. Especially with cases rising right now. We're seeing them, look, we're having to bring some more people in here to help them, but the support that they've gotten from the community, I want to make that very clear, having friends and family on both sides of it here, the support they get from you has been tremendous, and they are grateful for it. But again, I think we need to remind ourselves that these folks are out there on their own front lines each and every day, protecting us, taking care of us, things we don't even see. And I know there's a lot of unrest in our country, but we need to remember all those great folks because we have some great people, from police officers to firefighters to EMTs, whatever it may be, nurses, doctors, everyone involved here. We have some great folks here, and we need to thank those folks, not just because of what's going on with COVID-19 right now, but just each and every day. Hopefully this is a reminder for us how important they truly are. Look, also grocery store employees, truck drivers, all the essential workers out there, we didn't forget about you either. We thank you so much. Listen, from the toilet paper shortage, we know how crazy that was. If you were one of those hoarding toilet paper, then I'm not going to get into this. But look, those folks in there in the grocery stores stocking each and every day, making sure that we have a safe experience, or as safe as can be right now. We thank them so much for being out there. The truck drivers, like I always call them, the silent heroes. We always forget about them, and talking to a couple of them before listening to the show each and every day, that's awesome. We appreciate you guys and want you guys to know that. All the essential workers out there, you know who you are. We thank you. And listen, I want to send a quick shout-out, mention our sponsors, of course. We couldn't do this without our sponsors having this show, but more importantly, what our sponsors mean to our community. Coach, I know you wanted to mention something here with them, but they are so fantastic, every single one of them, not just because of the show and, of course, helping us be able to bring Talk Football to you, but just the importance of what they are in our community each and every day that a lot of people don't even realize.
Well, that's for sure, and I think to be able to bring some of the top people in football, to our listeners in this area, I think it's made possible by those sponsors, really. And I wanted to obviously mention, I've said many times, as you have said, we're so fortunate to live in this area, and also to have people who contribute so tremendously to the lifestyle and well-being of people in this area. And also, if you have any need, for example, of any legal advice, or you run into a situation, unfortunately, where you have to have somebody standing beside you or in the foxhole with you, so to speak. I got the greatest law firm in the country right here in town. You can pick up the phone and call, and they'll talk to you. And that's the Levin Papatonio law firm. They'll take on anybody and everybody around the country, no matter how big they are. They've done it all, and they've got tremendous success against some of the biggest. So that's really something that's important to us all to have that. I think it's a tremendous strength in this community. Not only what they do for the community, but just having them here available to be on our side should we need him. And I want to mention too, I know Bob Tyler, tremendous guy. He's done a lot for the community, and also I think there's some unbelievable pricing on cars out there and terms, primarily brought on by this virus, that he's willing to do. So if you're in need of an automobile, you probably should check him out.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach, everybody around here knows the Levin Law Firm and Levin Papantonio, how great they are. We there's no doubt about it. There's some great folks over there. We appreciate the support they give. And look, you're right. You may end up in a position that you know what, you didn't think you were going to be in, no matter what, whether from car accidents to anything. Give those folks a call. Look, they'll talk to you. They'll work you. They'll get you the best results you can get, and they'll make sure that you're protected in everything that you do. And Bob Tyler, yeah, absolutely. If you've ever been out there, they have the greatest selection around. A lot of great stuff out there. You definitely want to check it out. Like we said, there's some deals going on right now. Maybe you're not in the position. Maybe you are. If you're in a tough spot and you need a ride, go out there and talk to them. They'll work with you. That's the biggest thing here. And once again, we appreciate their support wholeheartedly. And, Coach, I know we have a ton to get to. And, of course, Jim Haslett's going to join us, the inside linebackers coach for the Tennessee Titans. Of course, we had Rashawn Evans, one of their, of course, inside linebackers on Friday. But, you know, we've got a pretty special week, Coach. I want to mention that real quick before we get started here. Of course, today having Jim Haslett on. Tuesday, Pat Dooley, the sports writer with the Gainesville Sun, a very well-respected SEC sports writer, to say the very least. Of course, Wednesday, Bill Polian, the Hall of Fame NFL GM, and, of course, you see him on ESPN as a personality there, bringing some great insight, as well as Thursday, Tom Pelissero. Remember, we talked about him. Former NFL executive, now, of course, writes for NFL.com as well as ESPN. You see him on there a lot. And then Friday, this is going to be interesting because remember, Dak Prescott in that situation, we'll talk about it in just a minute. Mike McCarthy, the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, is coming on to join us. Coach, we have a star-studded lineup. It's going to be a pretty special week, to say the very least, Coach.
Well, you bet. And I'll tell you, it's really good when with so much going on right now and so many people wondering what's going to happen with the schedules and so on. It's good to have these people on. I think we're talking about some people totally with inside tracks in both college and pro football. I know, you know, for example, the inside that we'll get on college football from Dooley tomorrow after the SEC meetings today. Of course, we'll have as much of a scoop on it as we can, and then with Dooley coming on, Pat Dooley, he'll have some additional information. So that should be tremendously interesting on college football. Nobody has more inside information on pro football than Bill Polian or Tom Pelissero. Those two would have about as much inside information as you could get anywhere on the NFL and the season and where it's going. And then, of course, Mike McCarthy will be able to talk to him about those Dallas Cowboys and things that are going on there.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And like you said, a little bit of everything. We're going to hit all the bases here this week. Going to be a lot of fun. And, Coach, I know we got, of course, a little bit of time here before we get Jim Haslett on. Always fun to talk to him. But, look, go ahead and throwing this out there, some of the big headlines for you. Daniel Snyder's team, of course, will no longer be referred to as the Washington Redskins. The team announced this morning that it will be retiring the team nickname and logo, and a new team will be announced at a later date. Of course, with them saying, today we are announcing we will be retiring the Redskins name and logo upon completion of this review. Daniel Snyder and Coach Ron Rivera are working closely to develop a new name and design approach that will enhance the standing of our proud tradition, rich franchise, and inspire our sponsors, fans, and community for the next 100 years. Coach, I don't think it's a big surprise after all this stuff came down, whether you agree, disagree with it. They are moving forward at this point. Of course, the big thing on this is, you know, all these FedEx and all these big sponsors pulling and threatening to pull money out of here. But, Coach, the Redskins will be no longer, and it's You know what? It's quite the tradition. I believe back in 36 or 37 is when they were named the Redskins, and they've been that pretty much, it seems like, forever. But now coming out with a new name, but nobody knows what it's going to be called right now. But, Coach, I mean, we've talked about it. We've been on both sides of it here. I mean, is this the right move right now?
Oh, JP, right move, wrong move, whatever. Everybody's got their own interpretation, and I personally, I'll be honest, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but I think it's ridiculous that we have to capitulate to these little brats that are out there on the street. I personally I have something against it, and I also see a big picture here, where people are. If you look at everything that's going on, there are people out there that don't want what's best for this country. I'm not saying the Redskins are best for the country, just a piece of the puzzle. Whether it's to have this virus continue and the economy shut down again, the continuing unrest in the streets. I think they would prefer not to have any sports. Anything that would up the misery index would be fine with these people, and of course they could care less about the well-being of the United States. So. Anyway, that's my opinion. I know we don't want to get into any politics here. Sometimes you can't help it with everything that's going on. You can't help at least looking at the big picture. So anyway, those are some thoughts, and be that as it may, we'll get on with football.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing is the Indians have talked about, the Cleveland Indians, of course, the MLB team there, talked about changing their name as well. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, the snowball effect on all this for these other teams. The Braves have come out and said they are not going to change their name, but the Tomahawk Chop, they will look to get rid of it. So, once again, whatever side you're on it, like I agree with you, Coach. I'm not going to lose any sleep on it. Whether I agree or disagree, it just doesn't seem like it matters anyway. So one more thing before we go to break here and bring Jim Haslett on, Coach. Dak Prescott, of course, in the news again. They have until Wednesday to come to a long-term deal. Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, of course. Like we said, going to talk to Mike McCarthy on Friday, so all this will be said and done at that point, and he'll be able to move on regardless of whatever happens. But if they do not make a deal by Wednesday, of course, he'll play under the franchise tag, which he already signed earlier this year. And the thing is reports are from everywhere now. Everybody is saying the deal's not even close and will not get done. Coach, I know we've talked about it, but just had to give an update there. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, and that's kind of the way we thought about it. And now, of course, a lot of people, it's something you said from the beginning, Coach, they seem that this is the Cowboys saying they just don't believe Dak is their guy. And, Coach, I mean, have you changed your thoughts on that at all? Still believing Dak is not their guy?
Not at all. In fact, I have said that since day one, and I believe it firmly. I mean, if you can't read those tea leaves, something's wrong with you. They want him on this 1 year franchise tag. They do need to have him in camp, and if he comes on and has a good year, then they'll look at a longer term deal. But he's got to have a real good year along with that football team. To be able to justify a long-term deal. Now, keep in mind, a long-term deal equals quite a bit of guaranteed money, right? The money that he's getting this year, the $31 million, when he wanted 34, 35, is cheaper than quite a bit than what he wanted. And then, too, it's the only year. They don't owe him anything after this year. So they're not obligated for any other guaranteed money. They have a chance to see what he can do. And I still say one of the best moves in the National Football League this year was for them to go pick up Andy Dalton and bring him in there. I would not be surprised if at some point in the season they make the decision that Dak Prescott is not going to be their quarterback, and they're not going to tag him again, and they're not going to offer him a long contract. You'll see Andy Dalton in there, and you could see him in there for a couple of years. He's still got 2 or 3 years he could play, and you could see them making the move to him and backing him up with lesser paid quarterbacks and going in that direction. Now that's my opinion. That does not mean that I have any inside information on that. I don't. That's just an opinion that I have reading the tea leaves.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. The Andy Dalton deal solidified it right there, and we kind of saw the writing on the wall at that point. If you even had a doubt, there you go. And look, that team with the Cowboys, we'll talk to Mike McCarthy on Friday, but they are ramped and ready to go offensively especially. But just want to say one more thing before we go to break here and bring Coach Jim Haslett on with us. The deal with Washington of not bringing out a new name yet, it's actually quite, I guess funny at this point. If you could get a laugh anywhere, go ahead and get it. The new nickname they have that they actually know what it's going to be, it's trademark issues right now they're running into. Apparently, Coach, believe this or not, a real estate agent went when all this was being said and done and trademarked a bunch of different, phrases, mascots, things like that. So that's where they're running into this. It's a good business move at this point, I guess, but that's what's delaying the whole name right there for the Washington Redskins. So just throwing that out there for people if they're like, well, why don't they have a new name? Well, there you go. But other than that, Coach, we got to go to a quick break. We're fixing to bring Coach Jim Haslett, the inside linebackers coach, on for the Tennessee Titans. Of course, you remember him being a Saints coach as well as a pretty darn good linebacker. But we'll talk all about that when we come back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that. Cool! That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You can watch Coach K talk football live right now on our YouTube channel at ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Monday afternoon. Hope everybody had a great weekend. A little sunshine outside. Look, we have a super special guest. We appreciate him. He's come on the show plenty of times. I know he's a great friend of yours, Coach. But Jim Haslett, the inside linebackers coach for the Tennessee Titans. If you remember, we had one of his players, Rashaan Evans, on Friday and, of course, spoke very highly of the former linebacker for the Bills and Jets. And if you remember that, he was one of the toughest around. Remember, he was the 1979 Defensive Rookie of the Year. Of course, the 2000 Coach of the Year with the Saints there. That's where a majority of people remember him, and he has had a lot of jobs in the NFL, a well-respected individual as well. And Coach Haslett, we appreciate you joining the show today.
No problem, JP. How we doing?
We are doing great, and I wanted to start this off. I had asked Coach if I could start it off because I know you may not be able to get me some insight here, but as a Titans fan, I always try to get what I can. And look, we know that John Robinson, the GM, has come out and talked about Jadeveon Clowney, that he's interested, but he wants to see him in person. Right now, the Titans are rumored to be looking in, of course, bringing in Chris Jones, the defensive lineman there for the Chiefs. Is there you have any insight on that for me, or is it just right now just rumors as usual?
Well, you're talking about two really good football players. Chris Jones is a heck of a player. He's still under contract with the Chiefs. Jadeveon Clowney is a great football player. He's done a lot of good things in the league, and I'm sure there's a lot of teams that'd be interested in having him. The issue right now is, obviously money, where you fit in the cap, and he had an injury, he had some surgery. You have to see him live. But I'm sure besides the Titans, there's, 31 other teams that are interested in these two players also.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one thing with Jadeveon Clowney. Look, I like Chris Jones a little bit more just because Jadeveon is a guy, like you said, he's had the injury before. And I think, of course, everybody knows it's tough to bring guys in. It's tough this offseason for free agents regardless. But, Coach, I appreciate you letting me ask that question. I had to jump on that because I just try to get some insight on my Titans. But I'll go ahead and send it over to you.
All right, JP, you are a Titan fan. I can appreciate that.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it, Coach.
I appreciate you taking the time to come on with us too. And listen, gotta ask you, what do you hear? What is there any inside what you hear not only from your people in Tennessee but around the league? Because I know you talk to other people about start dates, camp start dates, and schedules, anything to do with the NFL in the way of this coming up schedule for the fall season?
I think, Coach, everything's still up in the air. They're negotiating today, tomorrow, hopefully not much longer, Wednesday. But, I got a son that's in Dallas, so he gives me some information that he hears. And they're actually going to work this week, and we're going to work next week. So until I hear otherwise, I'm going in next week, and we got our tapes done. We're ready to go. We're ready to go for the meetings and practice until somebody tells us otherwise that no or yes, let's go. So I know there's a lot of things that have to be worked out here in the next couple of days, and I mean there's some odd things and unprecedented things, but I'm sure I've gone through a lot, Coach. I've gone through, when I first got in the league, I went through the Northridge earthquake and 9/11 and Katrina and the greatest snowstorm in Washington. I've kind of seen it all, but this one maybe takes the cake on all of it.
I know. You have seen it all when you were at New Orleans, of course.
I thought it was me at one time. Everywhere I went, there was I went to Buffalo, they got a snowstorm. I go to L.A., you get the Northridge earthquake. I go down to New Orleans, and we got Katrina. So it's like I went to Washington. We had the biggest snowstorm ever in the East. So I don't know if it's me. I hope it's not. But I don't know. For some reason, I'm in the middle of it.
You have seen the elephant and heard the owl. I'll tell you that. Yeah, that's
and I haven't handled any of them very well, to be honest with you. The football stuff is easy compared to this stuff.
That deal in New Orleans where you had to literally move out of New Orleans into Baton Rouge, I guess it's in San Antonio, to play games. That was, my gosh. I
didn't have a chance.
Yeah,
we were actually in Oakland. We were in California when we got the word that we couldn't go back because the city was getting washed away, and more people were concerned getting the wives and the kids and families out, and so you had to get them out. So for the next 6 months, we played in San Antonio. You ever try to get like a whole football team focused in on football when you're living in hotels, moving out of the hotels, getting thrown out, then you had to go to an apartment, and then you got no family there, and you're playing games in Baton Rouge, you're playing games in San Antonio, you don't have any home games, so it's that was different. But this one right now is headed to be the leader.
Well, you're still scheduled to go out on the 28th. I think it's a date that they're throwing out there now. Going out on the 28th, and when would your play? Would that be including camp starting with players coming in on the 28th?
We're assuming that the rookies can come earlier. So you're talking about 4 or 5 days earlier, and we're going up starting on the 20th, and until I hear otherwise, we're just going to follow what we got. And, the best thing about coaches is they have to learn to adapt. And the coaches in Tennessee they'll do a great job adapting. They got schedules down. We can rework it. The good thing about this team is these guys, the 4 or 5 guys, know the defense, so they can line up and play tomorrow. So that's the good thing. The teams with rookies, a lot of rookies that you count on, or rookie quarterbacks, I think they'll have a bigger challenge. But, I like our guys on our team, and, I think you could probably go play a game now with our guys, and you could be pretty well off.
Yeah, no question about it, especially if you get those 2 guys, or even one of the 2 that JP was talking about there, to it already. Potent defense. By the way, your linebacker, Rashawn Evans, did a very good job on our show last Friday, and he's really a top flight kid. Looking forward to the season.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he was second. People don't recognize he was second in the league or in the team in tackles, because on third down he goes and plays defensive end. So you take him out of that spot where you're going to have to make a lot of plays. But he is really, really, really a good person. He's really tough. He plays hard. The best thing about him and the whole defense is they play like their hair is on fire. This guy loves football. I told you the play that impressed me the most. They were playing Indy, and he missed a tackle on Indy's sideline. He got up and chased the guy down all the way across the field to the other side and made the same tackle on the same dive for a 5-yard gain. So when you see guys like that that are playing hard and having fun doing it, and you say, well, that's the kind of guys you want to surround yourself with. I think he could be even better. We talked about a lot of things. We're going to do some things different where he can make more. He put his hands on 8 balls that he should have intercepted last year, Coach. And he didn't get one of them. And he only had 1 pick. So I think he's one of those guys. He can get 5 sacks, 5 interceptions, 5 forced fumbles, along with 200 tackles if he plays his cards right. He's a really good football player.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be a very productive year.
Well, that's the goal for him. Yeah.
I want to ask you a question here.
Good.
No, I said I got a question from somebody else that wanted me to ask you on the time you're there. They follow the football team and the quarterback situation in particular. And that was a bold move last year that Vrabel's made when he changed from Mariota, who was a high round draft choice, and went with a guy that I guess you could say had failed the test in Miami. Who came on and played extremely well, and they won. How do you see? I know you're coaching defense, but you pay a lot of attention. Number one, I know you personally, you pay a lot of attention to the team that you're the total team picture, and maybe in particular that quarterback situation, because that's what drives your football team. I was asked to pose a question to you. How do you see the quarterback room in Tennessee as it would relate to other teams in the National Football League?
Well, everybody's different. Like some teams have the whoever ranks these guys, the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the league, and then you got a whole bunch, and you can rank them however you want to rank them, and then you got probably 4 or 5 at the end. I loved Ryan Tannehill coming out. I think he did a great job last year. He takes care of the football. He makes good decisions. I think he's really smart. I thought it was a bold move by Mike. But as a head coach, they're the ones that when you make the right move, I think the team respects it. We're a little different on offense than a lot of teams. We don't throw it 60 times. We got a great running back. We got a couple of players behind. We got a really good offensive line. So it's however you want to build your football team and how you want to play it. Like when I was head coach in New Orleans, we ran the ball. We had 2 really good running backs, and Ricky and Deuce McAllister. And our offensive line was probably the best in the league, and our defensive line was probably the best in the league, and that's how we won games. And, we didn't have a lot of great skilled players in the back end or on the outside. And on offense, we were trying to accumulate. We never got around to it, never finished the job off. But Tennessee's got 3 really good receivers, good tight ends. I like the skilled players on defense. I think it's a good football team. It's a good situation. Yeah,
I think you're right. It's when you look at some of the top teams in the league, guys, you got to put Tennessee right up there, and they deserve it. My gosh, you almost went all the way last year. And I think they're going to be better, obviously. Momentum and continuity has a lot to do. It's worth a few points to you. It really is.
I think number one, Coach, you got to win your division or be, and it's a really good division. You had Indy and all the things they did. They're a really good football team, and Houston's a good football team. Jacksonville's got a lot of good players on their team. So obviously your goal is try to win your division first and get in the playoffs as high as you can. And I don't think that's going to change this year either.
Yeah, no question about it. I really think Indianapolis helped themselves quite a bit. Now, there's some question, I know, and you and I have chatted a little about the quarterback situation there. I don't think he was helped very much last year, so especially up front. But he's got some players there. If the kid comes back with the running the 4-2, it's going to be that's going to be a tough football team to handle. And I think they got the best back in the draft. He's not up with your back. You got maybe the best back in the National Football League right now. He's something else. But how do you feel about let's take Kansas City and how you might stock up? You guys did a great job. Tennessee did a great job coming back and beating Baltimore last year and New England in the playoffs. But I think there's a certain way that you play Baltimore. But how do you feel about Kansas City and Baltimore?
Well, Baltimore, both unique offenses. One's totally different than the other. I thought they did a great job last year in the Baltimore game defending the quarterback and, keeping people in front of them so make sure he wasn't running around. And I thought the game plan was outstanding, and the players did a great job executing it. The Kansas City game, it's totally different than anything you've seen. It's, Andy does a good job. It's still Andy's offense, the West Coast offense, but you got intrigued. You got all these hired some college coaches that they stretch the field, and it's not so much the field, all this, what the players. I mean, they're fast. Their group is the fastest in the league. And the quarterback can run. They got 2 good running backs. They got 3 receivers that can fly. A tight end is probably one of the best in the league. And a really good offensive line. So, it stresses you out. The first game that we won, and Tennessee won, they beat them 35. I think it was 35-31. we gave up a ton of yards on offense, and we played better in the playoff game, but we didn't get the job done. So, that's obviously going to be the team people are shooting for. I think it's harder the second year to win. People kind of have an idea what you are now, and it'll be interesting. Obviously, the quarterback's phenomenal. He can make all the throws, and but this can be one of these years, Coach. It's one of these weird years. People will stay healthy, and the practices and all that other stuff. That'll. I said this will be a strange year, but it should be a fun year for the people to watch.
You bet. Well, listen, Jim, we appreciate it. I've kept you on a little bit longer than we told you we would, but I appreciate you being on, and as always, good luck to you this year, and we'll be seeing you here in the next day or two.
All right, I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay.
That's Jim Haslett right there, the inside linebackers coach for the Tennessee Titans. Always great to hear from him. A great friend of yours, Coach, I know. A great friend of the show's as well. It's going to be interesting. And you talk about the division. I think the division is really, really tough this year. You talk about Indy and what they did. But this Tennessee Titans team, hearing Coach Haslett talk about it and the way the team plays, the way the team is, Coach Vrabel, all those guys really get you excited. And when you look at it, one thing I want to mention too, Coach Haslett said is, look, until they tell me not to show up to work, I'm going to show up to work. So, and I know there's a lot of uncertainty right now. We'll talk a little bit about that. I know we got to go to a quick break. A lot of uncertainty with college football, NFL football, all sports right now. The one thing I will tell people before we go to break is you can take the news how you want, but it doesn't cost you anything to be positive. I'm not saying be obviously unrealistic, but positivity goes a long way in today's society. So, look, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Patriot League canceling fall sports. What does that mean for the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC? Well, probably nothing, but we'll get into that when we come back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that. Cool! That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Matt Kenseth. You don't have to be a race car driver to know that life can be full of drama. Some of it you can't control, like mechanical issues, high winds, and rain delays. But there's some drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org.
You just need to take that first step and find free classes near you and leave the drama for the racetrack.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ed Council.
For your ridiculous facts, I'm JP. Archer Matt Stutzman holds the world record for the longest shot with a bow and arrow under Olympic conditions. He hit his mark at a distance of 930 feet. What makes this so special is the fact that due to a disability, Matt Stutzman has no arms and therefore uses the bow with his feet. Now that's pretty awesome. And professional U.S. swimmer Michael Phelps has won more gold medals than 80% of all countries in the history of the Olympic Games. That's your ridiculous facts. I'm JP.
Hey, this is Chad Brillante from the Afternoon Sports Drive, and you're listening to Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson. Appreciate, as always, Jim Haslett, Tennessee Titans inside linebacker coach, joining us on the show earlier right there. Going to be interesting to see what happens with the season. Of course, we have a star-studded lineup coming up for you. We'll mention here in a little bit. But all week we have special guests, so you're not going to want to miss it right here on Talk Football with Coach K. And, Coach, I want to jump into this. I know, of course, we spent some time talking about the Redskins and Dak Prescott. I want to get into some college news. The Patriot League, of course, announcing they are canceling their fall sports. They will talk about winter sports later on and possibly looking to moving football to the spring, making basically the same move here as the Ivy League. Well, for people that don't know the Patriot League, well, it's understandable, unless you probably went to one of these schools or know somebody that went to one of these schools. It's an FCS division here. Holy Cross, Lafayette, Bucknell, Lehigh, Colgate, Fordham, and Georgetown. Some of those maybe you remember in basketball. That's about it. But not, of course, your Power 5, not your Group of 5 teams. We're not sure what's going to happen here. But them making that decision does not really affect, obviously, the Power 5. Now, Greg Sankey, we talked about this earlier. Now, the ACC, the Big 12, and now Commissioner for the SEC, Greg Sankey, went on a ESPN radio show Saturday and said that these decisions make, well, nothing to them. It doesn't change anything the way that they're going about their business here, and that they're going to make their decision in late July. He doesn't feel that it's necessary to make that decision now, regardless of whether it's to play or not, because each and every day with this virus, things are changing. But, of course, he said you can't mitigate and eliminate every risk, but how do you minimize the risk? That's the question right now. We're running out of time to correct and get things right, and as a society, we owe it to each other to be as healthy as we can be. He also, of course, like I said, goes on to talk about no need to rush decisions, and asked with the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the decisions they made there, does that affect them? And he said no, but look, we have to handle our own business here. So it's interesting enough, Coach, when you hear that. I do want to bring this up before I send it over to you. This is how much money these conferences raked in last year. For the Big Ten, $781 million. The SEC, $720 million. Pac-12, $530 million. The ACC, $455 million. And the Big 12, $439 million. That's quite a number, and that's why we're talking about, for some of these teams, when you talk about the ACC, you're talking about the Big 12, you're talking about the SEC, that have not made the decision to play conference-only schedule. That's why it's important, because even those 3 games are a lot of money for these teams. And we'll talk about some of the Group of 5 teams and how it affects them later on as well. But, Coach, one thing here. I thought this was very, very interesting because this goes along with what you've been saying as well. Alontae Taylor. Now, if you don't know Alontae Taylor, he's a junior cornerback for the Tennessee Volunteers. He tweeted out his desire to see games played this fall because a bunch of young student athletes need something to do. And before you, kind of scoff at that, understand that he is, of course, the current representative and the vice chair of the South Conference Football Leadership Council. So this is a guy that has, he is in a prominent position, especially when you're talking about college athletes. And he said, you cancel the season, I would hate to see so many athletes go the wrong way with all the free time. Just let us play. And he goes on to talk about it's important for these guys because of everything that they go through in their daily lives. They don't need free time. And they need football. They need something, some kind of guidance here with all this. And I understand before people get into the whole, COVID-19 is serious, absolutely. But once again, we talked about it, Coach. These guys being in that bubble, so to speak, right now, when you're talking about working out and things like that, is one of the safest places. But, Coach, getting back into it, any reason for the Big 12, the ACC, or the SEC to rush their decision? You there, Coach? Think we lost Coach. We'll try to get Coach back on real quick. But I want to make this very clear. When you're talking about this, it's interesting enough to talk about one decision. I'm not saying, I want to make this very clear. I'm not saying with the Big Ten and the Pac-12 that they're not going to make that call. But at the same time, what is the need to make the decision now? Because we talked about this on the Sports Drive before. Yeah, I think as a fan, you're excited to hear, excited to a point here, to hear Ohio State, if you're an Ohio State fan, that you'll have conference play. But once again, if you're a Big Ten or Pac-12, look, for me, being an Oregon fan, I was a little relieved to actually hear they were talking about playing football. But at the same time, it doesn't change anything with of course, the scheduling, because we need to understand these players or these coaches, these staffs, everybody they've been going over this. These ADs, they know in these meetings what's going on. They know the decisions that are being made. If you think the Big Ten decided that a couple hours ago that's the decision they'd made, you're fooling yourself, as it was probably obviously days and days ahead there. But Coach, I think we got Coach back on now. Coach, when you look at this, the decisions that were made by the Big Ten and the Pac-12, I don't think it affects too many people. What I mean by that is when you're talking about the ACC and the Big 12 and the SEC, they're going to do their own thing. And Greg Sankey has come out and said that they're going to do their own thing. Do you agree that that's the right way to go about this?
Well, yeah, and there's so many things involved here. One, Sankey's not going to make the decision, okay? Sankey will be one voice among many. And these college presidents and administrators and accountants, this is such big money involved. The TV money for SEC, ACC, and the other conferences, the Big Five, is tremendous, and they can't afford. They've already lost the basketball money, the March Madness money. They cannot afford to lose football money this year. Just can't do it. You don't care how big you are. Now, I think I've said all along they're going to play. Yeah, they're going to find a way to minimize. I think the key word here is minimize the risk to the very, very best of your ability and play. They've got to play. And the other thing too, that on a maybe even a larger note, is that this country needs colleges to play and the National Football League to play, and hopefully some high schools to play. And I think even many of the high schools are going to find a way to do it. But anyway, it's a big decision. I think, yes, they will find a way to do it. Now, the people that are going to get hurt is if they block out these smaller schools and you have to play a conference-only schedule, and Tennessee doesn't play Troy, Alabama doesn't play McNeese or whoever they play, and Auburn, I think, has a game with a small school or two, and then you got, they want to get those games and get 2 or 3 wins there, and then if they just get 2 or 3 wins in the conference, they're now with the unbelievable bowl eligibility picture, makes them bowl eligible, which I don't agree with. But at any rate, that's what they're looking at, and these small schools are going to be hurt because a game with an SEC school in particular, in Alabama or Florida or Georgia or an LSU or Texas A&M, somebody like that, is their whole year's production, financial production for their athletic budget, and they just can't afford to do without these ball games. They just can't afford to do it. And I'm talking about even the big schools. I think they make accommodations and get it done. And what happens to the smaller schools, they're just going to be at the mercy of whomever with the larger schools that will continue to play.
Yeah, I agree, Coach. And once again, I'll read this off, how much each Power 5 conference raked in last year. $781.5 million for the Big Ten. The SEC was $720 million. The Pac-12, $530 million. The ACC, $455 million. And the Big 12, $439 million. That's quite some change right there when you talk about the money and how important it is for these programs. And that's just the Power 5. Imagine these Group of 5. Like I said, we'll talk about the Group of 5 tomorrow, what it means to them. And once again, I want to reiterate this because I think this is important, Coach. We talked about it. Alante Freeman, the junior safety, right, or junior corner for the Tennessee Volunteers, who is also a part of one of the leadership councils for the Southeastern Conference there, Southeastern Conference Football Leadership Council. He is the vice chair of it. So it's an important representative here for the student athletes. And he said, you cancel the season, I would hate to see so many athletes go the wrong way with all the free time. Let us play. He goes on to talk about how important it is for these guys to play. And, Coach, you talk about it as a nation, absolutely. And I think it's important to understand these players don't get to speak out. We don't hear a lot from these players when we're talking about playing and stuff, with everything going on right now. Of course, the majority wants to play. Obviously, we said Austin Reed came out the other day and said, look, we want to play. 99% of us want to play here. Tweeted at the Gulf South Conference in the NCAA. I think it's important to look at it from this way. And these kids are the ones that will be taking the risk out there. And once again, it is safer for these guys to play in their own little bubble out there. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm not going to jump into politics. I don't care about that. I'm just saying from a perspective, that's what these guys are saying. But if you're expecting an answer from the ACC, Big 12, or the SEC today, the SEC is meeting. All the athletic directors are together. We're not sure what we're going to hear about that. Don't expect some big announcement. But late July is when they're going to make their decision on how they're moving forward, whether it's full schedule, whether it's conference only or anything. But that's going to be late July. Just want to throw that out there. Listen, we got to take a quick break. And, Coach, on that note, we're going to talk a little bit. Oklahoma did something that was, well, maybe a positive sign moving forward. And we'll talk about the SEC and the Big 12, what that could mean. There could be a partnership here in the future depending on what happens. I'm not going to give any more details other than that. All that coming back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro Shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Highway 29 in Car City.
Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that. Cool! That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hear ye, hear ye. I bringeth thee a message from... a message from the king and his new trumpeter, Stephen. The king wishes me to convey his favor to thine team and thine tailgate. Not yet. He invites thee to let the Bud Light flow forth. And he also wishes me to tell thee that he toasts thee. Waiteth until the end, Stephen! With game day's favorite light lager and the slogan of his kingdom... Oh, dilly dilly. Enjoy responsibly. Bud Light Beer, AB, St. Louis, Missouri.
Head Start and VPK are open for enrollment to children age 4 on or before September 1st. These programs help maximize a child's potential, and Head Start provides free medical and family services for qualifying applicants. For more information on Head Start, call the Community Action Program Committee at 844-356-8137. For more information on VPK services, please call the Early Learning Coalition at 850-595-5915.
Pensacola's own NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith has some tips for us during this time.
This fight is up to all of us to try to help bend that curve. It's going to take teamwork. It's going to take us to stay committed, stay focused, and stay dedicated to the mission at hand, and that is to keep everyone safe. So be encouraging. Find some support. Find someone to talk to every day to encourage them to keep on continuing in this fight. And we will beat this pandemic.
The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Monday afternoon. Hope you're doing well, staying safe out there. We appreciate you joining the show. Of course, another shout out to Jim Haslett, the inside linebackers coach for the Tennessee Titans, joining us again. A great friend of the show and a great friend of yours, Coach. I know we appreciate it so much. And want to jump into some college news again, Coach. We just talked about some of the, Patriot League canceling. If you're a Patriot League fan, I'm sorry, but I'm personally not. Moving on. Look, we talked about decisions being made for the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC. So they're going to wait until late July to make that decision. We know the SEC, of course, is meeting today just to talk over some other things and the latest things that have been going on. It's an in-person meeting, so interesting there. Coach, an interesting move by the Oklahoma Sooners here, and this is I take this as a positive right now. And once again, that people are planning for a full season. Some of these other conferences, just because the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have made their decisions, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be across the board for everybody. But once again, everybody talking about it. Oklahoma has petitioned the NCAA for a waiver to move up its season opener against Missouri State from September 5th to August 29th. And they're doing that. It would give them an extra week to prepare for Tennessee on September 12th. Now, yes, Tennessee and Oklahoma are slated to play September 12th. Which will be the second visit to Norman in the past decade for the Vols, of course, who last played there in 2014. Coach, the Vols are slated to open the season against Charlotte. When you look at this, there's a lot of ways you can take this, but this is obviously, to me, a positive sign, Coach, because once again, we can take what you want out of the news, but hearing, of course, Oklahoma moving up their game, trying to move their game up a week against Missouri State, how do you take that? Is there should we look into this at all? I mean, I know it's a day-by-day process, but shouldn't this be a positive note moving forward?
Yeah, I think it is. I certainly do. And I think you're going to see more of it. For example, between the ACC and maybe SEC, there could be some interchange there. And then, as we've talked about before, how are they going to handle Notre Dame? And I'll guarantee you Notre Dame's not going to be left out. You got 6 teams in the ACC that have games scheduled with Notre Dame, and Notre Dame officially is not in the ACC in football. But you bet on it, they'll play those games.
Coach, with that being said, this is something that a lot of people are trying to push for. Of course, right now, with those 3, the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC not making their decision, for some people are talking about, that the Big 10 and the Pac-12 may have made their decision a little too soon. Just if things change and get better for the more towards the normal of what we're going to see, should the SEC, of course, join with the Big 12 and the ACC here, and for some of these games that they may miss out, try to find a way to possibly play at least a couple of those games they may have lost?
Well, I think they're going to try, but you stop and think about it now. If you're an SEC coach and you've got to play your whole schedule within the SEC, that's tough sledding. Every game is going to be an SEC game. That's tough. What if you put that albatross on probably any other team in the country outside of the SEC and told them you had to jump in the SEC and play all 12 of your games against SEC people? They wouldn't like it too much. So that's going to be interesting as well. I think they got to have some type of compromise. I'm sorry that Alabama and Southern Cal don't play, but I think we're going to see some interchange interconference play.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do. When we're talking about this, it'd be a lot of fun, especially Big 12, and to see the Big 12 play the SEC there and have a matchup. We see this in basketball. Big 12, SEC, whatever they call it, where the teams kind of interchange there. Of course, like I said, Oklahoma's playing Tennessee already. We love to see those big conferences go after each other. A lot better than playing Missouri State or whatever it may be. No offense to those teams, but it'd be really interesting to see this. And it's going to – look, this is something that, once again, I want to make this clear. This has not been brought up to anybody, but it's something that people are trying to move towards right now. Once again, those 3 conferences haven't said anything. So we have no idea. I'm just reading to you what I found out, an interesting take, to say the very least. But Alabama, like we said, everybody right now in the ACC, the Big 12, and, of course, the SEC is going business as usual until we hear further notice. But Coach, that sound means it's time for us to go. As usual, we didn't get to everything, but you know what? We're going to do our best tomorrow. And, of course, it was great to have Jim Haslett on. But, Coach, it's been a pleasure.
You bet. We'll look forward to it tomorrow.
Absolutely, Coach. Appreciate it. Have a great one. And for all our listeners out there, hope you have a great afternoon. We'll be back same time talking some football with you right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, the only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gullick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brillante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, sports call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. Breaking news. A former NBA MVP says he's tested positive for COVID-19. Rockets point guard Russell Westbrook tweeted he's currently feeling well, quarantined, and looking forward to rejoining his teammates once he's cleared. He also urged everyone to take the virus seriously and mask up. After 87 years, the Washington football team making big changes. The organization will officially retire the Redskins' nickname and logo, following recent pressure from sponsors and decades of criticism that they're offensive. Expect the new name and logo soon, explains the Undefeated's Jason Reed.
Before Washington's NFL franchise goes to training camp, this issue will be resolved. Because Roger doesn't want this lingering. He doesn't want this being another talking point with everything else going on. This COVID situation is going to take up a lot of space, rightfully so. So the league doesn't want this naming situation to carry on.
Jason Reed on Golick and Wingo. The Patriot League has canceled fall sports because of the coronavirus crisis. A decision on winter and spring sports made at a later date.
Whether you're taking on the trail or your terrace, your deck or your dock, Nature Valley Crunchy Granola Bars will help you make the most of your outdoor time. Because a Crunchy Bar tastes like summer wherever you are.
This is First Take Your Take, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Jason Fitz is off today. I'm Jeff Dickerson filling in. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can tweet me throughout the show at Dickerson ESPN. Your thoughts on Washington's name change. Give us a call, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. We'll talk more about Washington's name change with John Keim, who covers Washington for ESPN's NFL Nation. That'll be in about 10 minutes from now. But another big story is percolating down in Florida around the NBA as NBA players, when they resume games, hopefully soon, almost all the players will have social messages on the back of their jersey. A group of messages that was approved by the Players Union, by the NBA, messages that will try to raise social awareness. One player that will not have that on the back of his jersey is arguably the most outspoken player in terms of advocating changes and social justice in this country, and that is LeBron James. This was his decision on why he was not going to put a social justice message on his jersey.
I actually didn't go with a name on the back of my jersey, and it was, it's no disrespect to the list that was handed out to all the players. I commend anyone that decides to put something on the back of their jersey. It's just something that didn't really, seriously resonate with my mission, with my goal. I would have loved to have a say-so on what would have went on the back of my jersey. I had a couple things in mind, but I wasn't a part of that process, which is okay. I'm absolutely okay with that. So what I will continue to do, off the floor and when I'm talking to you guys and when I'm, everything that I do has a purpose and has a meaning. So I don't need to have something on the back of my jersey for people to understand my mission or know what I'm about.
That was LeBron James. It's time now for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. LeBron James has done so much for the community in terms of not just raising money, but schools and sending kids to college and being at the forefront of calling for the necessary changes in this country. But he is not participating in this social message on the back of your jersey campaign that the NBA and the Players Union have agreed upon. So, of course, this morning on First Take with Stephen A., Marcus Spears, and Jay Williams, they discussed this topic. And Stephen A. says he does not have a problem at all and says symbolic gestures are simply hollow.
I'm not surprised at all by LeBron's stance, and I'd like to add I 100% support him in this. His actions speak louder than symbolic gestures or just words. He's got a movement going more than a vote. Your husband, Jalen Rose, is involved in it. Draymond Green is involved in it, along with a host of others. I can't applaud them enough for what they're doing because they're about doing something. They're not about engaging in symbolic gestures. And I keep beating this horn. I'm not trying to act like symbolic gestures are meaningless, Jay and Swagoo. Please don't get me wrong. I understand there is a place for it. But when it comes to us, there's so much more that's needed. On how many times will I repeatedly have to bring up the fact that, you know what, if police brutality is your issue, why not go about the business of doing everything you can to enforce that police brutality against unarmed black men become a federal hate crime? Why not sit up there in the businesses that we patronize as African Americans